Welcome to Texas Auto Channel. This is episode 13 of K-swapping my Mazda B2300 truck. If you're new here, please click that subscribe button and hit that like button as well. So in this video, I will be putting the K-series wiring harness in, getting everything kind of cleaned up in here a little bit more. We're going to be removing the blower motor and AC stuff right here because it's kind of in the way for where the turbo is going to be, so I have to remove that. I will find a solution in the future to still have heat and AC and stuff like that in here because this is still going to be a fun work truck. I am still going to be using it for work and play. So the wiring harness I got is a manual 02 to 04 base model RSX harness, which is the K20 A3, which is also the engine that is in here. I know it is not the best engine. I will upgrade things slowly later on, but this is what I have for right now, so we're just working with what we have. I also got a wiring harness right here. I will leave a link in the description. This harness is really cool because you can put this in pretty much anything. It has the two O2 sensors already wired in, has relays for the main relay for fuel pump as well, and has the outputs for fan control, speedometer output, which means you can put speedometer input into this. Not with this setup, but we'll go over that in a little bit. I also have check engine lights, so if the check engine light comes on, it'll pop up right on the factory cluster. Oil pressure light and other things like that. It's a really cool setup, and it has a little pinout that comes with it, and you can look up the C101 connection pinouts as well if you don't know where they go. But it's a really cool little setup. Definitely worth the 150 bucks I paid for it, I believe. It's pretty cheap in comparison. Some of them are $300+, some are $200. This one was the cheapest one I could find, and as you guys know, I'm trying to keep this as much on a budget as I can. But yeah, I'm basically going to set the tripod up in here. We're going to remove this, and for people that want to know how to remove it, there's an 11mm nut here, one right here, one down there, and then there will be one on the inside on the firewall, which I already removed that one. Then you'll just unplug the connectors, and we can move this because this will be getting yanked out of here as well. But I'm going to go ahead and do that, and we'll go over more. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Okay, well that cleared up a lot of room. That's exactly what I was looking for. I'm basically just going to take these, because we will still be using them in the future, like I said, for the air. Which basically what I'm going to do is put the blower motor here on a custom built little box of some sort, and it'll still blow the air through here. You can still run the heater core, I just won't have the AC yet, but I still have a solution for that later on down the road. So, just going to kind of take that stuff back there. It'll be perfectly fine. And I think I'm going to try to use this connector spot right here, so that way I can run this in through that same spot right there, just basically making a little opening, because there's not a lot of wires through here, but it is a pretty bigger space. And that way the grommet is still going through a grommet, and I don't have to cut anything else up. Now I would just run it through here because there's plenty of room, but I'm trying to keep this setup as nice as I can. I also made a little metal bracket that goes here that I can bolt in to kind of close this up, so that way nothing's getting in here. I have to make one on this side as well, because this is just for airflow. But I'm going to go ahead and put the little cover I have right here on, and then we'll get started with the wiring. Okay, well I know this isn't the super fancy cover that most people thought it would be, but I will improve on it later on. This is just for temporary use, of course. Just basically snug this up right here. Okay, so now that we've got that, it should look something like this, and there's tons of room for activities, if you know what I mean. So I am going to be putting the turbo manifold on along with the turbo manifold relocation, and then maxpeedingrods is providing us a GT35 turbo, so huge shout out to maxpeedingrods for that turbo setup that is coming. I will be using a 92 to 95 turbo kit in routing the pipes with that kit. It has a majority of the bins that I need, and the intercooler is the perfect size to fit either behind the grill or in the front bumper. So once that gets here, I'll definitely do a video on it for sure. But yeah, we're going to be running that, which will give us room right here to run a down pipe because like I said, I'm not doing side exit or hood exit, even though there's plenty of room for me to do that now. But we're gonna go ahead and get this wired up real quick, and we'll go over some more after that. Okay, well there it is. It is all ran through there, so it'll be pretty waterproof once I finalize this little covering here. But yeah, it just runs right across there. I can easily zip tie this up out of the way. The exhaust off the turbo will come about here, run down at perfect clearance. Over here, I wanted to show you, I will be doing the thermostat swivel piece in another video, so definitely be on the lookout for that video here shortly. I still have to extend TPS and map sensor wires real easy, just basically extending them out to about here. They're just not far enough to reach the rear wheel drive setup. The air idle control valve is perfectly fine. It reaches perfectly on the manifold. I went ahead and got a 1/4 inch, I believe it is a 1/4 inch, yep, fuel hose, 1/4 inch fuel hose, and hooked it up to the factory location using the factory fitting for the RSX fuel rail. I will be upgrading fuel rail later on down the road, but for right now, this is just gonna work. K24 throttle cable, as you can see here. Basically put it on the outside, marked it with a Sharpie, pulled the throttle cable off, drilled the holes, went from the inside, pushed it out, put 10mm bolts and nuts on the inside and out, and it hooked right up to the factory throttle pedal, so that worked perfectly. And this is what it looks like with the throttle actually opening and closing. Everything works perfect. As for what I did for the throttle bracket, it's a factory CRV bracket. I basically just cut off a little section of it and just bolted it in right here, drilled 2 holes in it and bolted it in, and it's the perfect length. So the factory CRV one works fine. I also hammered this part to make it more of a straight, less of curved like this, and it works great. So I'm gonna go ahead and throw that back on now that we got the fuel rail and injectors in, and then we'll go inside, wire this thing up, and we'll see if we can't get it to crank. I forgot to mention I got the clutch slave cylinder working. I just used a high pressure fuel line, but it does move a lot, so we'll have to go back to the drawing board on that. It is a plastic clutch line, so it's kind of hard to work with, but I'll figure something out. But as you can see, that line definitely moves a lot. Alright, as for the inside, we have the wires running through the firewall now, which is great. It's going through a factory location. This piece right here, we're going to be using, this is a fuel reset. It's a little button, like if you get into a wreck or something, or you roll it, or just hit a bump hard, this will trigger and it'll shut the fuel pump off. It's common in Fords, which you can see right there, it says Ford. This is basically a Ford Ranger. We're going to actually tap into this for the fuel pump, so that's going to be cool. It's just right there, so I don't have to go digging for the fuel pump wiring. We have Jackspania, I think that's how you pronounce it, universal K-swap harness. This will be in the description. You can use this harness on any vehicle. You can even build a frame and put this harness on. As long as you've got a power and a ground, this will work. So this is going to be really good for this setup. I went through and already labeled everything. We have the positive right here for the fuel pump, so that we will actually be running up here into that. We have switch 12 volts, there's 2 of them, and then a constant 12 volt. Then we have a ground wire. It already has the wiring for the O2 sensors. It's a really nice setup. It already has relays and everything, so I highly recommend it. Link is in the description. I'm not sponsored by them, just trying to get you guys some quality good products. And it was fairly cheap compared to hybrid racing and other popular brands, so definitely go check them out. So basically, I'm going to go ahead and show you on the driver's side real quick what we have going on for the starter and stuff like that, so check it out. Alright, so on the driver's side underneath the steering wheel, we have this gray connector with a 7mm bolt holding it in. It's already loosened it up. And I've already cut the wires, basically just splicing into these. We're going to solder it. This red/blue wire right here. This is going to be responsible for sending the ECU starter signal when you turn the key to the forward position. This yellow one here, that is constant 12-volt power. We will have an inline fuse on this one. So I'm going to go ahead and solder in the wires and run them over to the passenger side. Okay, there's also this gray and yellow wire right here. It actually runs right up there to the front. You're going to want to tap into that one as well. That will be your switched 12 volt. So I'm going to go ahead and solder that up and put a little loom around it as well. And then we'll go back to the passenger side. Okay, we've got the wiring ran. We have the red wire, which is our switch 12 volt. Got 2 wires ran into that. Our brown and our yellow from the relay side of the harness. Got those ran in there. Then we have this blue wire right here. That one actually runs to the C101 connector starter pin. I believe it's pin 16 or 17. And then we have the inline fuse right here, which is our constant. Now, I didn't have to run an inline fuse, but it is smarter to run an inline fuse, especially with the computer having a constant. But the factory has a fuse on it for the protection from the factory, so it would have been fine without it. Now, I know this looks like a huge mess, but you can look up C101 connector pinouts, and this came with instructions for what each color wire does. So it's pretty self-explanatory, and there are wires like this one's for vehicle speed sensor, which I will not be running on this. I'll explain later. Then we've got like oil pressure, check engine light, coolant temp, stuff like that. Important things that you need to know, but it will run without those hooked up at all. Those are just kind of your like, hello, your engine's about to blow up kind of lights. So those are very important, which we will be wiring these up as well, because I found them on the wiring side. So that will actually be happening. So now that we've got that hooked up, we have the green wire, which is the fuel pump signal. I have it tied into the, I guess that's a peach colored wire. I can't really tell. It's the wire from that connector right there on the firewall. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn the key and we'll listen for a fuel pump. Okay, here we go. I had to go plug the battery in. There's the fuel pump. Awesome. So there's fuel pump. Now, moment of truth. We're gonna go ahead and try to give it a little bump. Well, there's starter. There's fuel pump again. That, I think, is a success for that. Now, obviously, I can't start it yet. There's still some components out there that I need, but we are making progress. I need to get these wires ran over here, so I'm gonna go ahead and show you that. Okay, moving back to the driver's side, under the dash here, this is very important wiring if you want your check engine light to work, your tack, so on and so forth. There is a connector up under here. There's a little gray tab. You'll push that up to release it. Make sure your battery is disconnected before doing any of the wiring. We have this connector here. My son and I have went through a very long process to figure out which wires go to what. I couldn't find a pinout anywhere, so this is it on the internet for Ford Ranger / Mazda B2300. I don't know if this is the exact same on the Ranger, but it works for the Mazda B2300, which is made by Ford. So we have the connector just like this right here. If you were to turn it to its side, there will be a pink, and it's like a very, very light green. That is your check engine light. So you will ground this to the check engine light spot, the MIL spot on the C101 connector or the E plug, whichever one it is. I'll put it on screen. So you'll want to ground this to that. That'll just go right to that wire, and your check engine light will work. Then we have the next one, which is only a couple above that. So we've got this pink and green for check engine light. Move up one, move up another. We got a green and white. That one is your oil pressure light. So if you want your oil pressure light on your dash to work, you will also, this is another ground. It will go straight to the oil pressure on the K-series computer, which I'll put the pin on screen so that way you know exactly which one it goes to. So moving on to the other side, we flip it all the way around. We have a yellow blue wire, which will go to this pin down here. Yellow blue. It is a There's a lot of these same colors that repeat through here, just so you guys know. It is not all going to be super easy where you just find one color and you're good. There are so many repeat colors in here, you have to be careful. So that's why I'm showing you exactly on the connector where it is located. So it is a yellow-blue color, and this one here is for your temperature gauge to work on your dash. Then we have up here a green and red. This is for voltage. This is for your battery light to come on. If you don't care for the battery light, don't hook it up. Now, it is also a ground, so keep that in mind. Then moving up from there on the connector, we have the yellow-green, or the yellow-blue color at the very bottom. Skip 2, and then it goes to the green-red. Then you'll skip 1, which the next one up is a black-white. You'll skip that and go to this brown-yellow. It's a very light brown yellow color, and that one is your RPM signal. So this will go from the tach side of your ECU, which I'll put the pin number on screen so that way you know. But yeah, that's where you'll hook your tach. So you will have a tach, you will have voltage, you will have your temp, you will have your check engine light, and you will have your oil pressure. So when wiring up your universal K-swap harness, I'm going to go through and show you some of the wire colors on this particular one. They come out of the relay side of the harness right here, as you can see. Relay side, they kind of come out right here. We've got the black, which is kind of obvious, that's a ground wire. We've got the green. This is to send the signal to your fuel pump to turn on. So that will be your positive to the fuel pump. And we've got the red here, which is the constant positive. So this one has constant from your battery, basically. This yellow one and this brown one are both switched 12 volt. I have them ran to the same wire. So I hope that makes sense. When we get to the starter signal, so when you turn your key or you do a push button, the positive from that push button or your starter ignition goes directly to the C101 connector pin 16, which if you look right here, it's typically a black and white wire on the K series side of the harness. It's a black and white wire. That is a thick red wire on this particular one. Now the white wire that's coming off the C101 connector, that will be your vehicle speed sensor wire. But like I said, we won't be worrying about that on this particular setup yet. I will eventually find a way to run a speed sensor setup, maybe if I have to use it off of ABS wheel hub sensor or something like that. But we'll figure it out eventually. I'm not too worried about it because I have a GPS app I can use for speedometer for right now. But yeah. We're going to hook up all these colors. I'm going to look at the chart and see which one goes to what, but you can find a K-series, K20 or K24, depending on what you're using, pinout on Google Images. You just go to Google Images and type in K-series pinout and browse through all of it. Either are showing you from this direction or from this direction, like that. So, just be very careful, make sure that the wire color is right, because if you hook it up wrong, you can fry the computer. But I'm gonna go ahead and get all this hooked up and put back. Okay, got it all wired up. The computer is up off the ground. I have it screwed up there. The wiring is behind the plastic floor cover. OBD2 plug running out of the computer wiring is on the center console. The only thing I don't have wired up is the reverse light, but I have to run the 2 wires off of the RX-8 transmission that I have for the swap, and I'm gonna run those to ground the reverse lights so that whenever the reverse lights go to come on, the circuit is completed with reverse. It's kind of confusing, but if you know anything about wiring, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. It's gonna ground it through the sensor. But yeah, if I turn the key to the on position, we get fuel pump priming, check engine light, oil pressure light. All those gauges up there are working. Every one of them should work perfectly except for the speedometer, since the RX-8 transmission does not have a speed sensor in it. The RX-8s use the wheel hubs for the ABS to calibrate speed. So I have to figure a way around that, but I'm not worried about speedometer right now. I can put a GPS app, it's not a big deal. So if I go ahead and turn the key forward, it goes to crank, but the battery is dead, so unfortunately it won't crank fast enough. But it doesn't matter because I still need an immobilizer bypass for this computer to start. So until I get a immobilizer bypass, it will not start, but it is cranking from the key, which is awesome. That is exactly what we were wanting, and it's priming with the fuel pump from the key as well. So it still uses the key to start it, which is awesome. I was gonna go with a push button start, but I kind of wanted to not have my truck stolen, so I had to use the key. But yeah, we're making progress for sure. So this is the intercooler and piping for a 92 to 95 Civic. Also fits 88 to 91 with some modifications, and it fits 96 to 2000 as well with some modifications. But yeah, this is a really nice intercooler piping kit. Definitely recommend it. Link is in the description for both the intercooler and piping kit, and of course the maxpeedingrods turbo, the GT35 turbo. And I'll also leave a link for the log manifold I'm using. I know a lot of you don't want me using a log, but it's my setup. I'm just doing what I can, and I like it this way. So I'm going to be putting the V-band adapter with the 4-bolt and then a dump tube right here. They'll dump down and then go out the back. More information of that will also be on my More Motorsports channel, but it's looking pretty sweet. I can't wait to get it going. I wasn't originally gonna put the turbo on first, just to rule out any problems running all motor, but to do a custom all motor exhaust, it would be expensive, and I didn't want to have to buy the exhaust twice, if that makes sense. So I might as well just throw the brand new turbo on, put the oil feed line in, oil return, and all of that stuff. I will have to redo the 10AN fittings. I'm probably going to get the oil cap adapter that goes right here, and it'll come off to the side and have two 10AN fittings and run straight over, and it'll be good to go. But I still have to get the throttle. That's coming soon, and throttle cable's hooked up. Fuel line is hooked up. That's why I didn't spray fuel when I tried to start it. But there's definitely fuel pressure. I tested, and it smells like fuel. So we're good on all of that. So definitely making progress. I have been super busy, and with the wiring, trying to figure all that out, it was a disaster. But now that I got it all figured out, I hope this video helped someone out there that wanted to do this. It's not finished yet, but we are definitely getting closer. So please continue to share the videos, hit that like button, dropping comments helps tremendously, and stay tuned because before too long, we'll have this thing at least running. And that's step one into the long process of making it stupid fast and having fun with it, because it'll be a fun, quick work truck. So I'm gonna go ahead and get off here. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. And as I like to say, God bless, stay safe, stay awesome.